In this video, I'll be explaining the different output buses found on most mixing console, and by the end of this video, I believe you should be able to have a proper understanding of how and when to use the different output connections in your console. Let's jump right into it. The most common and most versatile output bus you'll find in almost all mixing consoles is the main output bus, also referred to as the stereo master bus. Now, it is the most versatile in the sense that all inputs to the mixer can be routed to this output bus. I'm talking about the input channels, the internal and external effects or stereo returns, the two-track inputs, even the talkback microphone. If your mixer has Bluetooth or USB functionalities, then this can be routed to the main output bus as well. The levels of input signals sent to the main output bus can be varied using the channel faders for the individual channels or the volume control knob for other inputs, while the overall output signal level is varied using the master fader, which is often found at the bottom right corner of most consoles. Now, the main output bus can be used in a variety of different ways. If you're mixing live sound, for example, with two main speakers serving as front of house left and right, then the main output can be used to send signals to those two main speakers. The main output can also be used in a situation where you're mixing different inputs down to a stereo mix, maybe for recording purposes. The main output can be used for that. However, there are a variety of different ways, limitless ways with which you can use the main output bus. The second most versatile output bus you find in most mixing console is the auxiliary bus or the aux bus. Now, you can view these as the secondary main outputs. Almost all inputs to the mixer can be routed to the aux bus, with the exception of probably just a few, depending on your console. For example, this mixer, the MG2414FX, has a two-track input that has been automatically routed to only the main output, so it cannot be routed to the auxiliary bus. Now, the levels of input sent to the auxiliary bus are varied using the auxiliary knobs or faders, while the overall signal in the aux bus is varied using the aux master knob or fader. Some consoles allow you to choose between pre-fader and post-fader aux sends. A pre-fader simply means the signal sent to the auxiliary bus is independent of the channel fader level, while a post-fader aux send means the signal sent to the auxiliary bus is dependent on the channel fader level. A typical situation where you use a pre-fader aux send is in sending signals to stage monitors. Now, stage monitors are the loudspeakers on stage pointing towards the musicians, with which they hear themselves as well as other musicians. Now, I have an entire video dedicated to using aux buses to send signals to stage monitors. You'll find that at the end of this video or in the description below. A post-fader aux send, on the other hand, can be used with effects units like a reverb or a delay unit. In this case, you connect the output of the auxiliary bus to the input of the reverb unit, while the output of the reverb unit can be sent to a stereo return on the mixing console. Each individual channel can then be sent to the reverb unit using the aux send knob or fader to vary their level. These are just two examples, but like the main output bus, there are infinite number of ways for you to use the auxiliary bus. Group buses are most often used as single level controls for a collective number of inputs that have been grouped together, and they are less often used as actual output buses. However, they come with output connectors and can thus be used as actual output buses. Input channels are routed to the group buses using the bus assigned switches, with the channel fader used to vary their level. This is similar to the way signals are sent to the main output bus, while the group faders then serve as master volume controls for the signals that have been grouped together. Now, in a live sound situation, group buses can be used to send signals to a secondary speaker. For example, the low frequency instruments can be grouped together and sent to a subwoofer using the group bus. Another application for group outs that are employed quite often when mixing live sound is using them to add dynamic processing like compressors and gates to a group of input signals like vocals or drums. I have an entire video dedicated to how I use group outs in live sound mixing, and you'll find that at the end of this video and also in the description below. Let's say you're mixing live and you want to maintain a clean recording of your individual inputs to be mixed for live stream or later with a DAW, then you can use the direct outputs found on some analog mixing console. Direct outs are mostly found on mono input channels, and they output the audio signal entering that channel just after the preamp circuit. This means that the only control in the channel strip that affects the direct output is the gain knob. So while creating a live mix using the main output, you can also create a multi-track recording using the direct output. Most advanced consoles come with matrix outputs, and these might be a little bit difficult to understand at first. But here's a simple analogy that I learned from Kyle at Audio University here on YouTube that might help you understand what a matrix does. Consider each input to your mixer as a passenger. Now these passengers can travel on a bus like the main bus or the group buses. The matrix output can then be likened to a ferry which can carry these buses along with the passengers. Now what this means is that the main output left and right along with your group and auxiliary buses can be sent as inputs to your matrix. The matrix output is most commonly used to send audio signals to additional speakers in your PA system. For example, let's say you're mixing in a venue that has a very wide stage and the main speakers far apart. So you might have some front field speakers at the center of the stage to feed the audience at the front in the middle, and some additional delay speakers midway through the venue to reinforce the sound at the back of the venue, and let's say some other speakers at some VIP tent somewhere or on the balcony or even backstage. Now these speakers might require a different mix with a different level to be able to get a general sound that is very well balanced. Now the matrix output can be used for this, and due to the fact that you can send the main output mix as well as the group mix to the matrix as input to the matrix output, it simply means you can vary the level of vocals in relation to the band, the rest of the band that actually gets to those speakers, and so the matrix is very useful for those. Give this video a thumbs up if you got any form of value from it, and please subscribe. You can click here to watch my video on how to use auxiliaries to send signals to stage monitor, and you can click here as well to see my video on groups. I'm Kelvin. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.